Passage in the book that tells the story of you getting a manila envelope mailed here to the Washington Post with some hot tips in it, truly anonymous. And Greg, you of course explained that usually anonymous sources are people, reporters know who they are, the reader may not know, but the reporter and editor knows. But in this case, you didn't know who it was from. Yeah. And it's very dramatic, and it almost feels sort of like this classic moment for all of you where sources are reaching out to you in whatever way they can. I'd love for you all to talk a little bit about how important sources are right now, and how sometimes a statement made by someone from the president's team can motivate sources to reach out and say, I know that's not what happened. I know that's not true. And in a sense, they push people from the inside to reach out. So Ellen, tell us about what was in the manila envelope you got. And this is in December 2016, so post-election, but before President Trump takes office.
Right, sort of an early Christmas present. Had walked down to the Post mail room, the basement of the building, and just collected the mail that accumulates, and flyers, books, and then there was this one manila envelope that I thought would probably just have some public relations flyer that I would throw out, but it didn't have a return address, and it had a it was like a postmark that was very vague, and I think Craig mentioned it was like a little Charlie Brown Christmas stamp in the corner, and it was actually it was to me and to a colleague, Josh Rogan, here at the Post, and it was a single space typed letter, no signature, no name. And it claimed to be from someone inside the transition who was very concerned about what he was seeing, or they were seeing or hearing.
Inside Trump Tower?
Inside Trump Tower, in particular mentioning a meeting. They gave the date too, as I believe, which started us, I showed it to Greg. I said, look at this. This person claims that there were meetings with senior transition officials talking about wanting to have some sort of secret communications channel with the Kremlin and the Trump organization. And we were stunned and intrigued, and we started reporting out. I think that's one of the things that started us on the road to, like there was the story about the meeting in the Seychelles with Eric Prince, and what turned out to be a Russian oligarch. And there was a story that I did and Adam about a secret communications channel that Jared Kushner, Trump's son-in-law, wanted to have set up in a Russian embassy so that Flynn could communicate with Russian generals as a result of the letter. In fact, in the end, the writer never revealed themselves, never came forward, but it was indicative of, I think, a degree of concern that was going on inside the administration, inside the transition, which carries through, I think, to this day, and which is how a number of us and our colleagues have gotten tips on stories.
It's worth noting, I mean, the whole idea of anonymous sources, people that sort of push back on it periodically. Oh, how could they be talking to people? Everyone should talk publicly. Like, I don't know. There's lots of sensitive stuff in the world. People have jobs, they have families, they have responsibilities. And I will just tell you, if it weren't for people who talk to us without our using their names in the newspaper, we wouldn't know any of this. I don't think there'd be a special counsel investigation. I don't think, I mean, and so to the extent you're glad that things the government doesn't want you to know come out, thank an anonymous source every day, because without them, we don't know anything. Because what people say officially, those are press releases. Our job is to get the unofficial, the truth, the thing that the powerful people don't want us to know and don't want you to know. If people don't come forward and work with us, we can't do that.
I also want to say that we do, we vet the information very carefully and rigorously, despite tremendous pressures to get the story and get it out first and beat everyone on the competition. The story about Mike Flynn and Kislyak that had 9 sources. I mean, we wanted to and had to make sure that we had the story right before we would print something that explosive, and that again is testament to your reporting.
And even that,
parties, right?
even that letter that you got, I mean, that never ends up really being a source in our definition of the word.
It's more like a tip sheet.
It's a tip sheet. It's a roadmap for lots of stories. A lot of it panned out, but we never relied on that for anything that we ever published because we don't know who that person is. We still don't.
Do you find that sources come to you sometimes out of frustration when they read the official account or they read sort of what the line, you're all nodding your head, okay.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of motivations for sources. Not all of them are pure motivations. And sometimes that is something you have to take into account, but mostly we're evaluating whether their information is good more than whether their motivations are always good. Sometimes they're motivated by pride and other things. But yes, in this case, in this moment, you know, a lot of it is coming because of deep concern, profound concern in some cases, from things that they are witnessing from inside institutions and agencies that they care about deeply.